And we're live. Hey everyone, my name is Nachum Russell, or Russ to most of you, because no one can say Nachum, that's too hard. And this is my friend Kaitlin Stankowski of KANE9 Dog Training Advocacy in Madison, Wisconsin. And for those of you who it's your first time joining this show, this is just a really fun way for us to chat, get to know each other, and for you guys to get to know different dog trainers from around the world. So a lot of you probably know Kaitlin already. And for those of you who don't, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Well, like Russ said, Kaitlin Stankowski from KANE9 Dog Training Advocacy. We're located out of Madison, Wisconsin. I do primarily board and train programs out of our home. I've been doing dog training full time for about 1.5 years now. Have done it a couple of years prior, but all part time. And prior to dogs, I sold cheese, so completely different worlds, but definitely loving what I'm doing now.
Cool. How did you become a dog trainer? Because selling cheese and dog training is pretty different.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago now, we adopted our first dog that wasn't like a family dog. It was, our personal dog. And he came to us with lots of quirks, as we like to say. Very young, he's 4 or 5 months. We adopted him, so we're not totally sure, but definitely puppy. And like within a month and a half of having him, just some like major red flag type stuff, reactivity on leash, and I didn't know what reactivity was at that time. Just like bad stuff for such a young age. And I'm like, what in the world? So pretty much tried everything that we could to get help with him. And then ended up finding a balance trainer. And again, I had no idea what that was either. I wasn't a type of person that was like super anti-tool or anything like that. So someone was like, hey, like, how do you feel? And I think she must've just been starting in the industry. It's like, how do you feel about like putting a prong collar on your dog? I'm like, it's fine. Like, what's going to help me? What can I do best for me and for him? And since then, it's just been like, oh my gosh, I want to help people that felt so alone, that struggled the way that I struggled, because it's not an easy way to live with your dog, especially when it's human and dog issues. Like that's even harder. So I just like dove into it head first. I had already like been doing stuff with dogs. I did volunteer work for 10 plus years now at like our local shelter back in my hometown, and would basically walk all the dogs that no one else wanted to walk, but nothing as extreme as what I was dealing with my personal dog. And then I just kind of like fell in love with the feeling of it, of helping other people, not only just working with dogs, which I love that as well, but that owner connection of like people being able to see that they can live differently with their dogs. So that's how I got into it, as a naughty dog of my own.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that so many dog trainers have our own story with our own dog of what got us into this. Like, if I was looking for a trainer, I would almost want a trainer that's been through it themselves, so they have that firsthand feeling. What?
Yeah. Someone that lives it day in and day out.
Exactly. Yeah. And at what point did like you click in your head that like I can do this for other owners? What was it that made you be like, I want to do this?
Well, I was fortunate enough to where I lived. We lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the time. There's a trainer who's actually like one of the original T3 grads, lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he helped me with my dog. And I basically just started like shadowing him. So I was like soaking up everything that he would teach me. He works with much more intense dogs than I would think that I'd ever want to potentially get into, more human aggression and stuff like that. Very, very severe, on not just like a little bit of human sketchiness and stuff like that. But I just like learned so much from him. And then he had a client that was looking for like just some private sessions, and he recommended them to me. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't think I can do it. He's like, you can do it. I'm like, okay. So luckily I got to say, like, from the role that I was in with being in sales, and I went to school for marketing and business, like this was never the issue of like talking to people and building a brand and things like that. But I never, like, service industry is so different from a standpoint of like, these are people's dogs. So many people, it's like their kids. So I really didn't know I was ready until I just did it. So I just started helping people after people and was like, okay, like let's start small and then see where we can take this. And definitely grown over the last couple of years for sure.
What do you love most about what you do?
Oh, so much of it. I have to say I like the whole picture. And what I mean by that is like, I know some people are like, I'm a dog trainer. Like I love the dogs day in and day out, but I feel like I am a business owner with the emphasis in like my client relations almost, where it's like the clients are the dogs and the human. So I love fitting the pieces of the puzzle together for everyone, where it's like there's a disconnect on maybe the way that we're communicating with the dog today. Where can we, find that place that makes things clear and fair for the dog, but also easy enough for the owner where they can be successful at home, but also know that they're going to have to learn just as much as their dog's going to need to learn. So I love that connection of like getting the dog back home is the go home sessions. And even though it can be hard the first couple of weeks for sure, and even, a couple months down the road when things start to get challenging again, I love that part of it because I love seeing people like going out there and doing the work and really, hit the ground running with all the information that I give them for when they go home.
Yeah, the people side of it is something that I really love a lot. It's like before I ever knew that dog training was a thing, which I didn't know that there was a whole industry based around dogs. I thought it was the silliest thing in the world. I didn't grow up with dogs, so before I had a dog, I used to drive past a dog daycare and laugh at these people. I was like, that's so silly. Like the whole thing was a joke to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew like I'm going to do something that helps people, right? And then obviously I fell in love with dogs because I got my dog and I had my crazy wild child.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I can help dogs and help owners together. But the thing that I think is best about it, like you said, that I agree with a lot, is seeing the owner's life change, seeing them putting in the work, seeing it click for them. It's like there's this moment when it clicks and like a switch goes off in their head and everything just starts to make sense and starts to work when they really put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a beautiful thing. Like go home sessions are the most tiring thing for me, but also like the most rewarding, I think.
I totally agree. And I also really, and I think that that's why I do like taking on some tougher dogs, is those, as much work as it is and like potential hours you lose of sleep because you can't stop thinking about that case or whatever, those are like the most rewarding. So I think that helping people that need it the most, that are really struggling, is my sweet spot, even though the dogs are more challenging, just because like it's more of an emotional thing for them from a standpoint of like, even if their dog's not perfect, which no dog is perfect, but even if they still have challenges and stuff like that, and you can only get them so far in the amount of time that we have to train them, we can at least get a really beautiful foundation laid for them so that when they do go home, like, the owners are committed because they're like, I have to make a change. So those are the things I love the most, is because, you'll get some clients here and there and they're just as important, but it's either very easy for them financially, it's very easy for them from a standpoint of like, okay, like I just need my dog to learn how to be, have some manners. Those type of like easygoing dogs. Those are very rewarding because, the owner's like, sweet, I can do everything with my dog. But the ones where it's like, I literally couldn't walk my dog before because it was a disaster and someone was going to get like attacked, to I can literally take my dog for a walk. Those are the ones that are just like super heartwarming.
Yeah. I love like my ideal client, if I can say, and if any of you are watching this, my clients, I love you all. Let me just put it that way first. You guys know that. But I love working with people who are desperate, right? And like they're desperate for change. They're desperate to put in the work, to do whatever it takes to really go all in, because they get the most results and their lives get to change the most. And many times those are the ones who really get to do the most with their dogs because they put in the work and they take their dog that literally couldn't do anything. And when they really work the program and go all in with it, they end up doing a lot more that many times than those easy-go-lucky dogs, because the easy-go-lucky dogs, it's easy just to settle with their easy-go-lucky stuff, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Like I know that with my own dog, when he had all of his struggles, it was like, and I saw other people with off leash dogs, and I started to like watch training videos and things. I was like, I don't just want him to stop being reactive. Like, I want him to be swimming. I want him to be off leash. Because you see that like that's possible. And when you come from such an extreme of nothing being possible, it's like you want it all, and then you're willing to put in that work.
100%. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And I think that also those more, obviously the more challenging ones are also more rewarding for us on our end. But the more, in general, I guess, the more you want something, the more you're going to work for it, and then the more you're going to get out of it, right? And then those are the owners that really get the most out of a system, out of a program.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the owners that it's not just like the 90-day plan of going home. They literally take it on as a new adjustment in their lifestyle to a point where it's like you can make adjustments down the road. You don't always have to, because obviously the recommendation of having your dog in command when they go home for the first 90 days, like in the home and stuff like that, where it's like the dogs can learn to earn that freedom in the home, but you'll see that the dog will change and just want to chill and just relax because that's the way that they've been like shaped and stuff. So it's the owners that make it a lifestyle that I see being able to do things that I'm like, I'm so glad you can give your dog a little bit more freedom here than maybe what I would have recommended in the first couple of weeks, because that means you're doing the work, and that means you can go live your best life with your dog, and it doesn't need to be always like super regimented, but in the beginning it does. It really does for people to get successful with their dog because they weren't previously. There's a reason they're going to training, and then stay successful and just continue to grow together. So that's what those types of clients are, the ones that I really love working with, because you know which ones are going to stick with it and the ones that don't.
Yeah, you can tell from that first conversation right away.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a question for you from our dear friend Bethany. What is a Peloton? That's what I want to know.
You don't know what a Peloton bike is?
I have no idea. A client of mine said she got one, and I was just like, oh, that's so awesome, but I didn't know what it was.
Well, I'm going to like change all your guys' lives, but also like empty your pocketbook and your wallets, because it is the best. I'm obsessed with it. It's an exercise bike, but what's nice about it is this giant screen on it, and like you can stream live. Like they have Peloton instructors, the bike instructors, and they like give you one hell of a ride, like just make you sweat, and you're climbing hills and whatever. It's so much fun. Bumping music, like any person that rides it will love it, because there's like 80s, 90s, 2000s top hits. Everyone's gonna love it. But it's changed my life, Bethany, and you need one.
I have to look into this, because you're the second person that I've heard. I had a client like a week ago, and she was texting me, and she's like checking in on her dog or whatever, and she's like, well, I'm on my Peloton bike and I'm traveling, or I'm somewhere, like she's in like the screen. I didn't get what it meant. I was just like, all right, that's so cool, have a great time with it. I didn't know what a Peloton was. But is it like VR?
What's VR?
Like virtual reality? Or it's a
No, you can do ones where it's like it's taking you on like a path, and you're just like in
that's what she was saying.
Yeah, but this one, the ones that I do, I like the instructors where they like basically yell at you, but in a way of like, come on girl, you got this. And then my husband, he loves it too. And so there's other instructors that he's more like, I don't know, aligns himself with. So I think it's like awesome for everyone, because it's not just like a chick thing or just a thing or whatever, or just like young versus old. It'll tell you like what age group people are in. And like I see people in their 60s, 70s, like Pelotoning. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're beating me right now. Like I need to work harder. But yeah, it's awesome. You'll have to look into it.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to know how many dogs you have and what kinds.
My personal dogs, I'm guessing?
I'm guessing that's what she meant.
Okay. Yeah, we have 2 personal dogs and a cat. Our male is a Staffy mix, and he's 5. His name is Rody. And our 1-year-old she's a female, and she's just a super mutt. When we did a DNA test, like the majority of her was like Shar-Pei, some Pitty, Italian Greyhound. So we just call her a little super mutt. But yeah.
All right. So I have a question for you that I think probably a lot of people can benefit from hearing some of it. So I know that your dog, you worked on really hard, you trained yourself, and you got him really far. Mm-hmm. But then you also spoke about a little while ago where you sent him away to another trainer.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what made you send your own dog? You're a professional dog trainer. You help tons of other people, and you sent your dog to another professional trainer, right? And a really great trainer.
Mhm.
Why did you do that? What made you decide that? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. So with Rody, our male dog, his human issues are to a point where it's like it was 100% manageable. Like there was no part of me that was like concerned like he was going to attack a person. He's never attempted to attack a person, nothing like that. He's not like sees a person and starts trying to go at them or anything. It's just very superstitious of new people, very habitual, where it's like you can just tell it's been created to be an event for him in a way that it's very superstitious. And I don't know exactly how better to explain that, but I felt that it's as if you're too close to something. So just like a family member, you might be a professional psychiatrist, but you can't be your psychiatrist for your family member. That's where I was at with our male dog Rody, where I knew he could do better, even if it didn't mean like he's best buds with everyone, because that's not what I need by any means, but I knew that he could do better and I wanted it for him. But I personally was too close to the situation where it brought a lot of anxiety out in me. Like a couple situations I've had with him, I just could not let go of. So I couldn't fully build my trust with him. So I felt like I wasn't taking him any further, because like I wouldn't let him, go up and sniff a person, even though his body language was super soft. I was just like, no, like you can't do that, because I would just freak out if something happened to someone else. So I was just so close to it. And I also looked at it from a standpoint of, okay, I have already shadowed Josh and Julie. I know Josh's style, and I'm like, I want to go out there and shadow again. So I looked at it as not only an investment in our personal dog, but also investment in my company of maybe potentially down the road helping people with dogs like Rody. And I have, probably not to the extreme that he is or that he was, or still could be with his human stuff. I don't take on dogs that are kind of as intense as he is, but I just knew I needed another set of eyes on it that did more than just a different approach. And yes, there's people close by that I could have gotten help from, but I didn't feel like they could take both of us to where we needed to be. So even Josh, when I dropped Rody off, was like, I don't know how far I can get him, because like this, like where he was, would make so many people happy with a human aggressive dog.
Yeah.
Where he's at right now is the way that a lot of dogs go home. But with me being a trainer, he's like, I know we can get more creative and I can teach you how to do things differently. So the way that I actually like handle and work with Rody is very different than I work with the training dogs. Just in a way of like, it's much more like spatial pressure type stuff. And like me and him,
more personal.
It's very personal. And you can't always teach clients how to do that, because it's so, it doesn't happen in 2 weeks. It doesn't happen in 3 weeks. It happens in a lifetime with your dog. So, I mean, will Rody ever be like this perfect, like everyone's best friend dog? No, but I do feel that getting that second opinion, getting, other people working with him definitely helped kind of bridge the gap for me and him, so that I could at least do my best and kind of start to let my guard down a little bit, because he proved to me, especially out there, that he can do and handle a whole lot more than I kind of thought he could. So yeah, I don't think that it's ever, I think a lot of people were like, I'm so proud of you for sharing that. And like, I didn't feel like just because I wanted to get another eye on my dog that I couldn't help people. So I want people to know that like, if you are struggling with your own dog and you're a trainer, like that's normal, like that's okay. Like your own dog is your own dog. And that's why owners struggle, is because we love the hell out of them and we can't help it. But when I was literally following everything that I recommend my clients to follow when they go home, I knew that we needed to do a little bit more, because he was already living an extremely structured lifestyle with still so much fun and freedom and stuff like that too. But yeah, it was actually interesting. Josh was telling us to give him more freedom when we came home, just because I was, so tight with him. And so it was an awesome experience, and it's taught me a ton also with my clients that I work with now. That's not even Rody. And there's definitely a lot of support from other people when I decided to share kind of that story.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome. First off, I watched this whole process with Josh. So I was like, I felt like I was a part of Rody's training, but I think that it was, for me, I struggled a lot when I first started like training other people's dogs. Mm-hmm. And at that point I was working at a facility, and I had already been working with dogs for a while, but not like officially training. Mm-hmm. But I struggled with that idea, and I'm sure other people too, of like, could I help other people when I know that my dog has his issues, right? Mm-hmm. And putting it out there publicly and letting people know that it is a brave thing to do. Like, even though you don't look at it like that, it for sure is, because you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to that idea of like someone saying, well, if her dog is not good, then what could she do for mine, right? And like all of that stuff. But I think that what a lot of owners see from that is actually the opposite, is that she does the same things, she struggles with the same things, or I struggle with the same things, right? And we work the same program that we're going to tell you, and we try our hardest, and we're still humans, and our dogs are still dogs, and none of them at the end of the day are going to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, people that'll say stuff like, oh, I wish like my dogs would act like Rody or Birdie, my two dogs. And I'm like, do you know how much work is going on? This isn't just because like who they are, and they still have their moments that I'm like, oh boy, like life with a dog, like they're not robots. And I know that we kind of overuse that in the dog training industry, I feel like, but they're like these amazing, like I love a dog that likes to push back. I know a lot of owners don't. They're like, I just want my dog to listen. And I want, like, Rody is a dog, and I think that's why I'm so connected to him, is like he makes me earn everything with him. Like, just like he has to earn everything with me, that dog will make me earn everything that I ask him to do. And Josh pointed that out to me, and I never really connected it. He's like, and he even said that, like Josh said that he was definitely one of the toughest dogs from a standpoint of getting into here, not from a way of like Josh had to really try to get him to make mistakes, because he was just like, I'm not going to bite you. I'm not going to like try to get into a fight or anything like that. Like he's not looking for trouble, but he's also a little bit like pushy in a way of, well, let me see if like, did you actually mean heel? Did you actually mean come? Did you actually mean down? Like all of that. He's like, I'm gonna make you guys earn it. And it's like, okay, we're here to work through it. But yeah, it's fun.
So what, if you could pinpoint, did Josh do differently than what you've been doing? Because I'm sure you put a ton of work and you got him extremely far, right? Yeah. And like you continue to. So what did Josh do that was different, or what advice did he give you that was different than what you would have been doing, besides giving him a little bit more freedom?
Yeah, in a way that like worked for what we were looking to accomplish. Honestly, like he's probably going to be like, Kate, don't share too much because I don't want to get every trainer's advice. But like he taught me so much about dog communication in a way of, getting into his space and stuff like that. And I've always like obviously stepped into a dog when you need them to go into a sit or into a down or whatever, but it was to the point of like it was, it's going to sound so weird, but he's like legit a dog whisperer. Like the way that he was working with him, I was like, I just couldn't connect to it at first. And then like, as I was practicing it, because it's just like anything else, you want to get good at it, you got to practice it. And he's like, yes. And the second that I started getting like knowing exactly when to wean off of his intensity, but also when to go back into his intensity, in a way of literally just getting in his space, because he's extremely sensitive to people being in his space. With me, I had to get into his space more just because he's not sensitive to me being in his space. So that kind of stuff where it was like such a tiny shift was so monumental for Rody. And that's really something that I really took away from. And it's helped me with every single dog that I've worked with since, and especially training like our new dog. Like I brought her out. We got her literally a couple months before I took Rody, not even. And, Josh even helped me. I think that's honestly why they're so good together, because Rody does not do well with a lot of dogs. Mm-hmm. And like with Birdie, they're best friends. But I think it's truly because of what we did with them out when we were with Josh, and then when I continued back home. So that's probably the thing that kind of was the missing link of what I was doing with him, and really letting him also start to make some decisions where, you know, when you're working with a reactive dog, and especially super intense reactivity, you know, you want to catch that initial, you know, before the dog's loading and stuff like that. But Rody's been trained for so long now that he was, you know, encouraging me to give Rody that opportunity. So basically giving him tons of leash and like letting him go and make those decisions. And 9 times out of 10, he's like, well, I'm not making that decision. Like, you just gave me that entire leash to go make that decision. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to mess up. I want to do good for you. So that was another thing that I would do actually more with my client dogs than I ever did with my own dogs, just because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want my own dog to like be the, you know, disruptive or anything like that. So just also kind of solidifying some of the things I was already doing and just helping me kind of take it one notch further.
I love it. It's very cool. One of the things that I appreciate about Josh, I've never shadowed him, but I've watched a bunch of his videos recently.
Yeah.
Is I think he's obviously he's a dog trainer, but I think more than that is like he focuses on actual behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way the dog is thinking and feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an art. Like,
you need to go shadow him. Like,
what?
You need to go shadow him.
Yeah, I would love to. Hopefully, I mean, I don't want to say hopefully I won't be busy, but hopefully I'll be able to make a break in my busyness and go. I would love to. I was going to go. I was planning or hoping to go in the summer, at the same time when Martha was supposed to go, but then everything got messed up schedule wise, and like none of it's gonna happen. But I'll get out there one day because he's awesome. Yeah, and I love that idea of working with the dog's behavior and mindset and the way the dog is feeling more than just training, right? And obviously we all try to incorporate that into training, but I think there's an art to that that's a lot deeper when you really dive into that side of it.
Yes, I definitely agree.
I'm going to answer this question quickly just because I want to make sure she knows. Rachel, your dog should never, ever, ever be on the couch. All right? Because I know you and your dog is behind me in her crate, and your dog shouldn't be in the couch at all. So that's my answer to you. Said it with a lot of love. But your dog is behind me in a crate. Her dog is with me for a board and train right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So that's why I was like just going to answer her quickly, even though it's not part of our conversation. But
no problem.
Your dog probably shouldn't be on the couch ever, or maybe for a very long time. Anyhow, what do you think you would do with your life if you weren't training dogs? Would you still be selling cheese?
Probably not. The company that I worked for, they were great people, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but I didn't have a passion for the industry or anything like that. It's interesting because like I'm still really good friends with one of the gals in the industry, and like she's like so into it, and I'm like, that was never me. And I'm like, that's why I also know it was a really good decision for me to you know, completely dive in and see where K9 would take me. But if I didn't train dogs or have my own training business, I feel like I would probably be doing some sort of, and I'd like to still do something like this, but maybe it's for dog owners, but some sort of like empowering, maybe women empowerment of, you know, creating a lifestyle coaching plan of, I don't even know exactly, but teaching people how to like love themselves, but also tough love, and not always just be like YOLO, like, you know, you only live once, but helping people kind of create a balance of how you can almost kind of like board and train for a human.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, kind of like what you're doing now, really.
Yeah, and like I would love doing like retreats and something where it's just like, you know, has a little bit of fitness in it, a little bit of mental work, you know, connection, things like that. So I don't even know where it would all go, but I would love to do something like that. Otherwise, I don't really know what I'd be doing. Something probably in the marketing field, since that's what I went to school for. But I mean, we're all marketers, so
yeah,
I am doing something in that field.
So you and Bethany, and I think Angie also, were supposed to do something kind of like that, but for dog owners, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be May 30th, so in 5 days, but we rescheduled to August, so fingers crossed that'll still be able to happen. It's going to be here in Madison, Wisconsin, the first one that we're doing. and it's called More Than the Dog. So it's basically definitely dog focused and dog centric, but more owner focused. So yeah, that's going to be super exciting and awesome. And we already have a awesome amount of people coming. So fingers crossed we can still do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what a great trio of trainers to be running that. Like, I want to go to that. I gotta get out to Wisconsin for that. That's really cool.
Totally. Thanks.
You guys going to take it on tour?
We'd love to. That would be awesome. We've already had people being like, hey, we would host you guys and stuff like that. So I guess, you know, we're definitely doing in Orlando, where Bethany's at. We're going to do one in Canada as well. So those will probably be our next stops. And then we'll see where it takes us.
Bethany's got a van. You guys can just hop in and just travel together. Yep. You can go on tour. Have like a big thing on the side, picture of your faces.
Yeah. We'll bring Bobby to drive us.
What?
We'll bring Bobby so he can drive us.
Of course. Drive and cook.
Yeah.
Of course. That would be awesome. That's so cool. That's awesome. I think that's really, really cool that you guys are taking that to more than just dogs. Like, because there is so much more to all of this than just dogs, right? If we're just working with dogs, then probably the average owner, if it was just about the dog, the average owner probably wouldn't struggle, right? But the whole relationship side of it and the whole empowerment side of it and them becoming a different person is what really makes that change. And I always say, like, I think dog training is more about personal development than changing a dog's behavior.
Well, I know people too, and I think that, and I know that Bethany kind of says the same thing. And I don't know if you guys talked about it on your, what do you call it? Show. Yes.
Yeah.
But is like a lot of people that are wanting to get into the training industry and stuff like that, which is like, just start, you can do this, like whatever. But will ask me like, what dog training books did you read to start doing this? And it's like, there's some great ones out there, like don't get me wrong, but personal development is really like, you can change so many of those words and put dog in there and you're like literally reading a dog training book, because it is so much about the mind and about the human interaction with the dog. And like, I'd like to say that what we do with some dogs, 100%, it's very challenging and they're difficult and they really test what you know. But with others, it's just so natural after the first couple days that I find, where it's like these dogs just like, they just gel when you start giving them what they need, which is that guidance and structure. And like 9 times out of 10, you don't see everything that the owner experiences at home because it's just not there. It's not an option for them with us because they just don't think it is. So yeah, I think that the personal development side of it is really what's going to make a really good dog trainer and make a really good dog owner.
Yeah, absolutely. The inspiration for probably some of my best posts have always been from non-dog sources. Yeah. And I don't really watch too much dog training stuff or read too much. And it's always, people always think it's strange when I say that, like, why aren't you obsessed with what you do? And I'm like, I absolutely am obsessed with what I do, but I don't necessarily need to learn from a dog training source to understand. It's like, once you know the basics, once you understand how this works, you're going to start to see it in all different places, because truth is truth, right? And it's like, if you see it, if it's real and if it's a reality, then it's going to exist in a lot of other places besides for just that one thing that you're focusing on. Right. And I mean, as you were saying it, I was looking at my bookshelf right in front of me. I have one dog training book up there, and two, because I also have an e-collar book, and then I have a ton of just personal development books and like books about parenting. I read parenting books, and I don't have kids. I've been reading parenting books since I got into dogs, and people are always like, "You don't have children." I'm like, but I have dogs, and if you take that whole book, I can rewrite it and just switch out child for dog and have an awesome dog training book on the market that everybody will love.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember when I went to T3, Tori was saying how one of her posts, like a post that she had written then that was like a really big post and a lot of people were loving, she said it was inspired by, now I'm not going to remember the name of the show. What's that show, that beach show? It's like lifeguards.
Baywatch?
Yes.
Really?
It was inspired by Baywatch. And she put up this show, this post basically talking about how like dog socialization is like, you're more like a lifeguard, right? You're not a bystander, you're a lifeguard. And she said that that whole thing came to her like on a Saturday night watching that show.
Really?
And, yeah. And I think it's like when we become dog trainers, if you really are obsessed with what you do, then you kind of get this, like, at least for me, this is how I am. I get this like dog training filter, right? So I'll like read something and I'm like, that makes so much sense with dog training. Or I'll see a post on Facebook about nothing to do with dogs, and it just filters through this little dog training filter, and it becomes a dog training idea.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think that's the cool side of it. And also like I think the personal, for me in my life, the personal development side of dog training has been the best part of it for me, like in my own personal journey with my dogs. And it's always a very cool thing to look back on. Like I think with, let's say Marley, because he's my like real wild one. By the time I got my other dogs, I kind of knew what I was doing a bit, so it wasn't as bad. But Marley, like when Marley was extremely reactive, I would say I was also like, and I also didn't have much impulse control in a lot of areas of life and things like that.
Yeah.
And we kind of found it together. He helped me get there.
Yeah, I think back to some of the things and I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder he was the way he was. Like I was a disaster. So yeah, you can't always like know when you're gonna get a tough dog or not, but then you also sometimes are like, I probably played into that a little bit for sure.
And it's not like it's a blame thing. Like for owners who are listening to this, it doesn't mean that everything your dog does is your fault, but it's sometimes like a cool mirror, like to see like where do I play into this? Like what part of this is me?
Yeah.
And that helps you and your dog a whole lot more.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
And now you run a board and train program out of your home, primarily board and train, right?
Yeah.
And you have somebody working for you now also?
Yeah. So I have someone working for me part-time, and that's been a huge relief just to even get help. At first it was just like, can you help me walk dogs? Because, I really like them to get a really decent amount of time out of the crate each day and stuff. And I'm like, I just can't keep up with even walking the dogs. So yeah, I have someone helping me part-time and it's been awesome.
Cool. And I have a question that I was asked this today, and I think it's a good thing to talk about. Somebody asked me this on Instagram. What would you say is the best thing for a dog owner to look for when they're looking for a trainer? So you were a dog owner, right? You still are, but I'm saying you were the consumer. And I never worked with a trainer with my own dog, so I was never a consumer. I'm curious, as coming from the client and now being the trainer, what would you say are things to look for as what not to work with and who you should work with when it comes to finding a trainer?
Yeah, so like I was so desperate in the beginning that I didn't know anything. So like I'm not going to really go based on how I picked people in the beginning, just because I'm like literally Googling dog trainer near me, like help me. And definitely tried everything, big box store, all that stuff first. But what I would say is obviously it's very important to be able to see their work. So go and see what they have out there. Some people aren't as like tech savvy as others, where they have really nice creatives and stuff like that. But I also tell people, like, could you see yourself like listening to that person's voice? I know this sounds weird, or like getting consumed watching their stories, or like, could you see yourself being friends with that person? Not in a way of being like, oh, well, maybe they'll be easier on me or something like that. But if you don't connect with the person that is putting out like a really nice amount of content of themselves, and you're kind of like, I don't know, probably stay away. And that's okay. You're not going to connect with everyone. But I think that that's really awesome in picking like a dog trainer, because it's just like, I don't have kids, but like, I'm sure picking a pediatrician is probably not easy. So like, it's not as easy because people aren't like posting on social media, but like, if you kind of meet someone, you kind of know, like, am I going to vibe with first their personality? And if not, it's probably not going to be the best fit, even if they're amazing at what they do. So it might be someone else where maybe they don't show as much work, but you really like what they're giving you. And then you meet with them, you're like, this is the right fit. So I would definitely say, like, you almost want to feel like they could be your friend, and sharing stuff that's not just their own personal dogs as well. I think sometimes that can be a little bit of a red flag, where it's like, okay, well, where are your training dogs? Like, let's see, you hands-on work with dogs. And another thing would be like a person that you can tell isn't just like sugarcoating things of, oh no, like your dog's gonna be perfect when they leave, no big deal. Like I get some people that I think I kind of scare them away because I'll talk to them like this is gonna be a massive amount of work for you when you go home, especially when there's challenging dogs. I'll be like, my part's not easy, but your part's gonna be even harder. And if a person's that honest with you, I would say either you're not ready if you don't like that they say that, and you don't want the help, or hire them because you really want to help keep you successful. So those are kind of some big picture things that I would really recommend to people. And if you have awesome recommendations from people, that's also helpful as well, because word of mouth is definitely very powerful.
Absolutely. I was saying something along the similar lines also, that, and I think this is something that's very overlooked, or I guess until now it has been. I think it's being spoken about more and more now, but is the human side of it, right? Mm-hmm. And especially now where we have, the industry is flooded with dog trainers. Like there's never been a time in history where there's so many dog trainers, and mm-hmm. it's awesome because dog owners can get the help they want, but mm-hmm. it also means that as a owner, you get to choose from a very big pool of people. It's not like you like type in New York City dog trainer and you find your 2 dog trainers in New York City, right? Or I'm sure it's the same thing where you are, right? There are tons of dog trainers everywhere, and that allows owners to really find someone that they connect with as a person. And without that connection, you're probably not going to be successful, even if the person is amazing with dogs, right? Because we're in a people industry, right? Like we work with dogs, but we work with people a whole lot more. And like everything we're speaking about beforehand, it's all about that person on the end of the leash, and that it's more than just dogs, right? Oh. And without that connection, without seeing, and that's why I try to share about myself more than not just about dogs, right? Like if you watch my stories, like I'll drink my coffee, I'll show you what I eat for breakfast, I'll talk about hanging out with my family. Like I want you to get to know me, and if you don't like me, you're probably not going to want your dog coming to me, right? And if you do like me, then probably you also like the way I work with dogs and you'll want to come. And I think that's an important thing. And it's also important for a lot of people who are thinking about going into the dog training industry, is like people want to see that. Mm-hmm. And they want to know about you.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I always think that it's something I tell, because a bunch of people recently been reaching out to me asking like, what are good things to do when you want to start becoming a dog trainer, right? Mm-hmm. And I always tell them like, be yourself and share yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like it's a difficult thing to do, obviously, but I think it's, in terms of marketing also, it's the best marketing thing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, people are also like, well, who am I at that point? They're like, oh my gosh, I have to post myself. Who the heck am I? And I think back to like when I first started really posting, a couple of years ago now, because I've had like my actual business since 2017. And I look back at my old posts and now I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But I'm also like, you know what? I was really trying. Like, I should give myself a pat on the back for literally putting a video of myself talking when I hated hearing my voice. I hated being on video. Like, and now I'm like, I'm on a video. I don't even know what I look like. I'm just going to post it. Like, don't even care anymore. Yep. Back then, Kaitlin was like, oh my gosh, you don't look good, this and that, like tearing myself apart. And I'm like, so sad to me because like, I feel so bad for that person, but like, it wasn't even that long ago. And I, still fall into traps of being like that. And I think about so many people that let that sound in their head that, other person talking to them, talk them out of doing something that they would absolutely love because they can't get out of their own mind. So that's why it's like when people are talking about it, like I want to encourage them, like if you are a hard worker and you're passionate and you're, continually educating yourself and getting your hands on as many dogs as possible, like go for it and just know that you can do it. If you think that you can do it, then it's probably going to happen. But if you're worried about what everyone else thinks, it's not going to happen. Like you got to block out those haters because they're going to be there. They're totally going to try to tear you down.
Absolutely. I cringe seeing videos of myself when I first started posting. Like you were saying, I don't feel like it's the same person. Mm-hmm. I used to literally like make sure my hair had no frizz.
I love it.
No frizz at all. I would hate editing videos because then it meant I had to hear my own voice.
Yeah.
I would hate editing videos because it meant I had to look at myself. Mm-hmm. And it made me really realize like,
it's not just that get like this.
What?
It's not just girls that get like this.
No, I was okay. I was talking to two dudes recently about this.
Yeah.
One of them, a little while ago, he's not a dog trainer, but he started posting a lot of content, and I've been encouraging him and helping him like with content ideas for what he's doing. And another one was into dog training, and it's like people who get like this, right?
Yeah.
It's not a girl guy thing. I think that's an important thing for everyone to know. Like, it's not a girl guy thing. This is a person thing, and it's about who you are as a person. And what it made me realize is like, why do I not like hearing my voice? What's wrong? Like, what do I not like about myself? Why do I not like seeing my face? Right? Like, what about myself am I not liking? Like, is it something I need to work on, or is it something that I need to work on accepting? Right? Is it something I need to change in me, or is it something I actually need to work on accepting? And most of the time, I think it's really not something about changing in you, because I didn't change the way I look. I look the same, but I changed the way I felt about me, and that's what changed it all. And I think it was like posting content helped me probably more than it helped the people who watch my content.
Yeah, definitely. I think that can be super powerful for sure.
Yeah, I think I've told this to a couple of people. It's like a personal development thing is get in front of a camera every day for a month and just post something. It doesn't have to be anything like talk about what you ate for breakfast, but post something with you on camera every day for a month straight and think about how you feel about it and go through that process. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I did it for a whole year. When I went to T3.
Remember.
Yeah, and that was like, it was
dedicated.
It was a serious journey for me though, like more than just coming up with new ideas to talk about every day, which like that in itself was hard. But like in my mind, I remember like halfway in, I started to like realize like I care less about like how I look, and I started to feel differently about it. And like I did a video in my bed, like sitting on my bed, as opposed to like I used to have to do it in the same background every day, or I used to make sure that I was wearing like a calm K9 shirt every day, and like I had all these rules that I had to do for it.
Yeah.
And slowly, like I started dropping these rules, and I started being more comfortable. And like now I don't care. Like I'll train dogs in pajamas and put up a whole video of it. Like who cares? It's real life.
Totally. Yeah. Awesome.
It's a powerful thing.
Most definitely.
So this is like my one question I love to ask every trainer who I talk to. All right. So hopefully you didn't hear it before, because I don't want you to prepare.
I didn't prepare.
Okay, good. So one thing, if every dog owner in the world was listening right now, what's one thing that you'd wish they knew?
Oh man, one thing?
You could tell me more afterwards, but what's the first thing that you would say?
This is hard because I feel like I need to have like some like insane answer, but it's probably, like very simplistic. I would say that one of the things that's like so obvious, but dogs are not humans. And I think so many people try to make them what they're not. And I wish people didn't do that, because like, don't get me wrong, I don't do it very often, but like totally baby talk my dogs. I totally like, oh, you're so cute, and get cute aggression and like all of that. Like, and I look at especially my female dog, because she really is just like a little angel. And I'm like, I just want to squish her. But like, I have, I want everyone to understand that like, we don't communicate to dogs in the way that we communicate to humans, and it's different. And your dog doesn't have the feelings that you have. Like, stop putting them on them. So I think if more people really start to understood that they're bringing in a animal into a domesticated home, where it's like they have to teach them the way of being a dog and a human life, is where I think more people would be successful, versus bringing a dog into what they think a dog's life should be, where it's, again, giving, dressing your dog up, having birthday parties for your dog, like things that I'm like,
okay, dressing up is, my dogs have shirts. Okay.
I'm not judging. Dogs totally have stuff too, but what I'm saying is like,
I know
people that are more concerned in like their dogs having birthday parties with other dogs, but they can't take their dogs to do any off-leash things. It's like,
yep.
What? And most often I will say those people are also people that are like, I'm not putting an e-collar on my dog, but you can't take your dog to do anything that a dog should be able to do. So really teaching people, or having them understand that, they're not humans. Like, please get that through your head right away. And you also not feel so like shut down or like your feelings hurt. If sometimes your dog is basically telling you like, no, like I don't care what you have to say right now. Like sometimes you will run into that because dogs are always looking to better their own situation. So if it means sometimes they're like, oh, like you want me to listen to you? I'm not going to. It's not, don't take it personally. Just be like, it's a dog trying to better their own situation. Let's figure out a way to communicate with them better. So that's probably one of the most important things that I would teach them or tell people. And then also obviously structure, like don't let dogs just rule the roost right away. And take your time with your dog. Like it doesn't need to be know everything about each other right away. Your dog is gonna change throughout their years, just like we change throughout our years. I think people kind of forget that as well. They're like, my dog didn't do this when it was 1, but now it's 3 and it's doing this, this, and that. I'm like, I'm not doing the same thing that I was doing at 25 and I'm only 28. Like, those kinds of things I think people need to think about as well.
Absolutely. Imagine how many less behavioral issues we would have in the dog world if dogs were actually treated like dogs, right? Like it would be, our industry would probably go under, which would be great because I think it would be awesome if people didn't need dog trainers anymore and could just have a great life with their dog without paying money for it. And like ultimately, I think the greatest goal should be to no longer need to be a dog trainer. Mm-hmm. But I think Sean O'Shea says, what do you say?
We have some job security though.
Yeah, I think so. It's unfortunate, but I think we do. Yeah. I think Sean O'Shea, I'm trying to remember, I think I heard the quote from him. Maybe it's in his book. Maybe he said in one of his like eloquently written posts or something. Mm-hmm. But I think he said, if you treat your dog like a dog, they'll treat you like a person. And if you treat them like a person, they'll treat you like a dog. I think that's how he worded it, something like that. I hope I'm quoting it from the right person. Okay. But essentially, that's what it is, right? Like the more we try to push our human emotions onto them, the more we get treated like shit by them because that's not what they want and that's not what they relate to, and it doesn't make sense to them, and it confuses the hell out of them. Mm-hmm. It's just not doggy. It's not dog-like. And the best thing, if we really in like, and of course every dog owner loves their dog. Mm-hmm. But if we loved our dogs in a less selfish way, then we would treat them more like a dog and we'd give them more of what the dog actually needs, not just what we need to feel good out of that relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult thing because we get dogs to feel good, obviously, because it adds to our lives and it feels good. But from somebody who's been on that side, because I treated my dog like a complete baby. Like I called him my child. He lived inside my hoodie for months. Like I carried him around like that. And like he sat by my dining room table and ate dinner with me. Like it was bad. And now like I treat him like a total dog, right? But that dog that gets treated like a total dog now gets to go swimming in the ocean every day of the summer, gets to live off leash most of his life, has 2 other dogs that live with him that he never ever would have been able to have at that point because he would have eaten them alive. Yeah. And like his whole life is so much bigger. Mm-hmm. And it's like I feel like I get more out of the relationship too now because I've grown from it. I get to live a life with him. I get to see him actually enjoying his life, not just like, if you think like your dog is enjoying life and they never experience off-leash life, you haven't seen a dog enjoy life yet.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest way you can show your dog you love them is being able to give them that opportunity in a way that, it's going to be safe for everyone involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people say just let a dog be a dog, I think that it's a great idea. I totally agree with it. But let him actually be a dog by treating him like one so that he can actually live that. And it's a level of, I guess, giving up what you think feels good right now, which is, I guess, what everything good comes in life is giving up what you think feels good right now for a bigger picture and getting so much more out of it. Like my relationship with Marley, because he's the best one to use as an example, because like my other 2, whatever, we were always on good terms. Yeah. But my relationship with Marley, like, is so deep because I knew what he could have been. Like, I knew what he was like, and it was horrible then. And I hated walking him knowing that, like, he might bite somebody or he might eat another dog or whatever crazy thing he was going to decide to do that day. Yeah. And, like, now it's like a pleasure, and I don't think twice about it. And our life is so much bigger together. And obviously there's that daily work, and there's a ton of management in his life, like a ton. But all of that leads to him being able to be more of a dog.
100%. I totally agree.
Yeah, I love that answer. And I love that you gave 2 more afterwards. But
Never like a one-word answer type gal. I'm like, oh, but let me add to it for 20 more minutes.
yeah, but the truth is those other 2, what do you say? Structure and not a lot of freedom, right? Was that the 2 things you said?
Yeah, I think it's
So,
that.
essentially goes under treating your dog like a dog, right? And
Yeah.
it all kind of falls into that. And that's respect your dog for who it is.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing once you start doing that.
Yeah. And people don't really get to see how special these animals really are when they're not letting them be the animals that they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, and like a good example too of like dogs that live like a different lifestyle than maybe what I train or even like what I would live with my dogs is my best friend has 3 Goldens and they are country dogs. Like they live out in the country with them and they can have different things than what a city dog can be like. And like their dogs, like they've trained them and from a standpoint like they know all of their things, but they literally live like dogs in a way that those dogs are loved, like, you know, like we all love our dogs, but they get like they roll in mud 16 times a day. They don't care. Like you're gonna now smell. Like that's just how it goes. And it's just cool to see like dogs with obviously us as humans stepping in when they need direction and guidance of how to live in our type of life is it just starts to click for them when it's like black and white. And then you can go into more of the gray area once there's an understanding of what's, you know, expected of you. But also once the human starts respecting and understanding that, you know, your dog needs to do this to be, you know, fulfilled and successful and everything. So it's not one way is the right way either. So if people are going to do it differently, that's perfectly fine. Just find something that makes you and your dog both happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing like a country dog enjoying life.
Oh, God. Yeah, when we bring our dogs out there, I'm like, I want to give this to them someday because they're just like running and they just are like the happiest. I'm like, country dogs are living a pretty dang good life.
Yeah, I love bringing my friend lives my friend has a stable in New Jersey and they lives over there and they have a bunch of horses and goats and all different animals and it's really nice. And I love going out there with my dogs. They just literally they're outside the whole time. When I stay there, they sleep in the barn and they're so happy. It's like they come home, they stink, they're disgusting, they're muddy, they're rolled in shit, but they're so happy. And he used to have a dog. Dutchie was his livestock guardian dog, and he was the most content dog ever. He would sleep in the barn next to the animals. He'd roam around at night and protect the property, and he was just so content. And the extent of his training was just making sure he did his job properly, but he got to be a dog so much. Like he was the epitome of just being a dog and doing what he's supposed to do. And there was almost like it was a different look on his face than the average dog that we see, that we get him for training, all that stuff. It was content. He was at peace. It was very cool to see that.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. I think letting dogs be themselves is the best thing you can do for them. Obviously within those boundaries that they need to be themselves.
Yes, goes without saying when the 2 of us are talking, but you always got to plug that in there. They're like, well, this is how my dog is. Okay.
You got to, or else someone's going to be like, it's okay that he bites someone. It's who he is.
Who he is. I could use that as an excuse. Sorry, guys. It's just who he is.
Yeah. And on that note, I guess there is an extent of that too, but that's a whole nother discussion, right? Of like, I mean, you have one who has some of that of who he is to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it's like an acceptance, like this is part of who he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was speaking about my dog like the other day, last week it was, we were at the park and he made a little gruff at somebody and I was really upset. Like it really bothered me, right? I was like, we worked so hard. You're not supposed to do that anymore, right? But on the other end of it, I was like, all he did was a gruff, like a little, and then he walked away, right? And then like it was almost like he did it and then decided not to go full force and be crazy like he used to. And like that's still huge, right? And obviously, like I think to continue working on him never to do that again would be awesome for me. But the fact that he did that once and like I don't know how long it was is so. And there's that level of acceptance. Like so many people were like, well, maybe he just doesn't like that person. Maybe he smelled that she was bad. And I was like, no, He just has a highly reactive nature, and it bubbles up, and it's there.
People will take it personally if Rody doesn't like them, because he has a group of people that, like, when we first got him, he's still super connected with. Like, if he loves you, he freaking loves you, and like you're in his circle. And like, he doesn't have a whole ton of new people in his circle, because he is a guy that it really does take time of, like, and smart people. I mean, he loved Josh and stuff like that, but he didn't love him right away. He was like, who the hell is this? Where's my mom? But also some of that is, you know, who he is. And I think people take it personally when he doesn't like them. And I'm like, it's not you. He just doesn't like new people. Like, I don't know what to tell you besides, like, he is very happy laying on his bed and completely ignoring you. And our other one wants to engage with everyone, and cool. She can do that. He can chill, and they're both happy. But I think some people take it personally at times, and I feel bad, but it's like, don't feel like it's not you. It's him.
That's what I kept telling him when I was like, I promise you, the lady at the park was this really sweet lady. She was picking flowers. Like, there was nothing wrong with her. And
yes.
But yeah, there's this idea out there, like, that dogs can smell who's bad, right? And they know if you're good or if you're bad right when they see you. So it's like people automatically is like, he thinks there's something wrong with me. And it's like, no, he's just something a little bit wrong with him. And like, it's okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. The cool thing about, I'm sure now that you have, is Birdie your first dog since Rody?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's really awesome to see like how you can have two dogs in the same household raised by the same person with completely different ways of being, and everything about them is so different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, because we were like so torn on if we get a second dog or not. Because we're like, you know, is it fair to Rody? And then is it fair to the second dog of, you know, having to live maybe a more managed life like he does? But I mean, we've had pretty much zero issues. I mean, with multiple dogs in your home, there's always gonna be something, but I've ever gotten into a fight or anything like that. It'll just more be like the two of them can be a little bit pushier together. Like, let's, you know, try to see if we can rush out the door. And it's like, we've done this for 5 years and you're going to try to rush out the door, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better. And then I'm also like, okay, I know I'm doing some things right because she's an awesome dog. It was just, you know, genetic makeup is a huge component of, you know, what's going on with your dog as well. And the first stage of like development and all of that. So yeah, it's been awesome having a second.
Yeah. And that's what I think about my three is that like, it's crazy that I have three dogs. I was just thinking about it for a second. I was like, my three, but I get to see like how much people always say like it's just about how you raise them, and it's like, no, because these three all got the same dad, and like we all got the same rules around here, but one of them one of them literally loves the whole world and thinks like life is all about her and everything is great. And another one, it's like, leave me alone. I want my space. I'll sleep in the corner and just, I want to ignore the whole world. Everything is crazy and everything is bad. And I like just staying in my head, right? And it's like, they both have the same, it's not like I like give Marley like shitty food. Like they both get treated the same, right? Their life is both awesome, but it's that genetics that's important. And it's also like for owners to realize that if your dog isn't a perfectly good dog, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did something wrong. Obviously, you could learn how to do better, but it might just be that your dog, that's his personality. And there's a part of that you just have to learn to help him with his personality.
Yeah, adapt to it and figure out how you can get them to be the best version of themselves. That's what any of us want to do.
Absolutely. And then you drop that comparison thing of like Birdie's not Rody and Marley's not Mama, and like this dog is not my childhood dog and all of that stuff. And then you get to really just help the dog be themselves to the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Love it. All right, guys, let your dogs be dogs, but treat them like dogs.
Yes.
So we're going to wrap it up. It's been about an hour. You want to tell everybody how they can find you, where they can see your content, get to know you, work with you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm definitely very active on Instagram. So KANE9 Dog Training. You can check me out at KANE9DogTraining.com. I have a YouTube channel, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Would love to connect with you guys.
Awesome. And she's on TikTok.
I am, but I'm totally slacking there.
I know. It's like little extra plug, make you put more content. All right, guys. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Kaitlin. This was a lot of fun. Love you all. Stay kind.